Welcome back to the mess hall, boys and girls, for more mindless stream of consciousness babble from Dr. Jet. Anyway, I've finished up the wing here, and I thought I'd go over it one last time for you. So you can see there's a little pin right here. This will eventually have 2mm threads and get a 2mm nylock nut. So all you'll see is a nice little nylock nut, and that will be so I can increase the force clamping this somewhat movable wing. I mean, it's pretty tight in there as it is. And so you see I'm throwing some primer here on the loose pieces, and it's starting to take shape. It's going to go into the paint shop, and it's going to spend a long time in the paint shop, because part of the paint shop is you shoot some paint on it and you got to wait a long time before you do anything else. But I'm going to try something new. I'm going to use rattle-can paint, but I'm going to decant the paint and then shoot it on with an airbrush, because the rattle-can paint itself is really good quality paint. The one limiting factor is that spray nozzle. You can't control it. And as a result, the paint goes on kind of thick. And when you're making a boundary between, in this case, blue and white, you're going to paint the white on first, and then you're going to spray the blue over it. Well, with that big nozzle, you're going to have blue paint up here, and a little man's going to jump off the blue paint, and then hit the white paint. I mean, it's a big step there. So if I airbrush it, I can really control that joint, get enough paint on here to get full depth of color, but not really that thick. And I can have some control, because an airbrush darn near sprays it on dry. There's not going to be any bleeding under the masking tape or frisket or whatever it is I'm going to be using. So we'll just have to give it a try and see what happens. Now, I've done some research on it, and part of the issue is inside the can, the paint itself absorbs some of the propellant. I mean, let's face it, air dissolves in water. That's why when you make ice, it has all these little bubbles in it. So what you have to do is you got to decant the paint. So you rattle up the paint in the rattle can real good, get it mixed up, and let it sit for a while. Then poke a small hole up in the top to let all the propellant out. And then you've got to take the liquid paint, and I'm going to pour them into some little plastic jars for paint that I can keep them on the shelf, resealable plastic jars. So I'm going to decant the paint into these plastic jars and let the propellant that's dissolved, remember it's under high pressure, so the amount dissolved is considerable. So let all that dissolved gases bubble out, and then use it in the airbrush, and I should get a pretty nice result. So anyway, I'm going to start with the tail fins and start the process on them. That way I'm not shooting a whole big piece at once and messing things up. So I'll do the horizontal wing here first, because it's going to just get red and white stripes on it, and then I've got to look at my decals as to which version of the fins I'm going to make. This is interesting. These fins are not really scale. If you look at the full-size boats, these fins are not aerodynamic sections. They are trusses made up out of chrome moly tube with fiberglass sheets on them. They're just basically flat plates to hold this wing in place. They're not these slick airfoils, and they're attached by pivoting hinges, because the fins will tilt together and tie together in the middle when the boat is up on the trailer sideways. So, there's a lot of things that the German guys that built these, they looked at some photos and made some plugs. It's not quite scale, but you know what? It's close enough for Dr. Jet. Until next time, boys and girls, Jet out.